Well, it's been a little bit of an average start so far to our second season up in the Bundesliga with Jahn Regensburg. Thankfully around that though, we have qualified properly for the Conference League. So today, we're going to focus on two big home games in the league. We take on Bayern Munich and then Bayern Leverkusen. Hello everyone and welcome to episode number 65 of Rookie to Royalty here on Shaun Does FM with Jahn Regensburg. I hope you're doing well and come up today. Got two big games at home in the Bundesliga. First up, we take on Bayern Munich, hopefully looking for some revenge off the back of their big bottle job in that DFB Pokal semi-final late on last season. Then off the back of Wolfsburg away from home, we'll come back and take on Bayern Leverkusen, a team that we thumped at home last season, but then got thumped by away from home, of course, off the back of them offering us a job interview, which we went to, but did not get the job. So fingers crossed here, can find a way to take some points here off two pretty good teams based on the season preview here in the Bundesliga. But this comes off the back of our season opening episode yesterday, a transfer recap, a sort of job overlook because there wasn't too much that happened, unfortunately, during the off-season, not nearly as much as I thought there would be going on in that front. And also, we did play our first game of the season, the derby, where we took on Wolfsburg. So if you missed that one, I'll leave a link to it over in the top right corner off the back of the episode. I've made my way through three games, two of those Europa Conference League qualifiers, where thankfully we did pick up wins as expected against CSKA Sofia out of Bulgaria. First up, a 2-1 win in the away league. To be fair, we're down for a little while in this game, which was a bit concerning, but thankfully some first team impact there did mean we picked up a 2-1 win late on in that away league, and then a bit more comfortable with a 3-1 win at home. So and then we went through 5-2 there through to the league phase proper of the Conference League, and you'll see once we get rid of all these other competitions, we've got a very easy schedule. So to be fair, not too sure how much of this you'll see during the first half of the season. First up off the back of today's episode, we travel to take on Kukuriki Stunkum. Then next month, we've got Corona Kielce, then Dudelange and Sepsi in November. Not too sure where either of those teams are from. To be fair, December, that's when things might get a bit more interesting. But even then, their home games, Atlanta, they're the pot 1 team that we did get. And Tromsø, that's the pot 2 team we got. So definitely should be making our way through the knockouts of the Conference League. If we don't, I dare say, we might be getting sacked. So thankfully, Conference League, that should actually be a pretty good chance for us to use our rotation squad as well as hopefully the early stages of the DFB Pokal in this first half of the season, so we can focus on the Bundesliga. Unfortunately, we did drop points again in the one game we did play in between those Conference League qualifying leagues, but it wasn't too bad because Eintracht Frankfurt had a really impressive win on the opening match day. We held them to a 0-0 draw away from home. Stats-wise, despite the lack of shots we actually had compared to them, it was a relatively even game XG-wise. Thankfully, we did enough there to hold on. Owusu Aduru did pick up man of the match there with an 8.0, and also Cuervo in defence had quite a good game, as did Dawn, who's a bit further down the list than I thought he would be, being our left back in that game. But in the end, it was a pretty good defensive performance there as we pick up a draw with a normal 4-4-2. We'll touch on that shortly. Our analyst at the moment is quite a big fan of the 4-4-2 against these teams we're taking on here early in the season. But it does mean we've got 2 points from our first 2 games, and that doesn't really help us out too much. We're down in 12th, but still early days. Hopefully can find a way today to pick up some points, but it's going to be pretty tough. As first up, we take on Bayern Munich, the pre-season favourites. Obviously last season they had a really disappointing one. They finished in second, but a million miles behind Dortmund. I think in the end it was something like 15 points. Pep kept his job off the back of DFB Pokal and Super Cup wins, but not a great start to the season in terms of the league off the back of their opening day draw against Gladbach. So they'll be looking here for a win to try and keep pace with Dortmund a little bit better in the early stages of the season. To be fair, even if they beat us here, they'll still be 2 points behind them. Dortmund, the only perfect team so far in the Bundesliga, but Bayern at home, a chance for us here, hopefully, to back up what we did in the league last season when Kim Min-jae did get a red card and we scored a late winner there through Stefan Pavicic, but unfortunately off the back of that, did lose to them late in that DFB Pokal semi and also away from home in the league as well. So our record against Bayern so far in this saber is not very good. But what we're going with here for this first game of today's episode, like we've done in our last couple of games, our analyst has been quite keen on recommending a 4-4-2 and not a narrow diamond one. So what I've done is try and work out some stuff during the course of the last couple of games that we have played. And I think with a couple of different roles here, we might have figured something out last season when we tried the 4-4-2 before eventually spinning it off because it was no good. We did have the ball wing midfielder that's still there in Lopez, but instead of the central midfielder, I'm pretty sure it was a deep line playmaker. Haasman so far does look a little bit handy as that central midfielder, so we'll see if that might improve this 4-4-2. So far it's done a pretty good job the last 2 games that I've played. Eintracht Frankfurt, we weren't that great attacking wise, but obviously getting a draw off those guys away from home actually not too bad, and looked a little bit better, I thought, than in that away leg of that Conference League qualifier where we used the 4-2-3-1, the 4-4-2 at home, did get us there a slightly better result. So we'll see here how it goes against Bayern Munich, and hopefully can find a way here to actually take some points off them. Definitely a few players who are a bit unfamiliar with the positions that we do want them to play, in particular our 2 wingers. Walden can go a bit further back, but not too natural there, and certainly Fernandes not very natural, and also usually we hit him a bit further forward as that inside forward, but for this system we can't do that, being a little bit further back, and as well as that Lucchini isn't in the team, which might be a little bit of a mistake. But we'll see if we can maybe bring him on as a central midfielder instead of that attacking midfielder, because that role doesn't suit the 4-4-2. Instead, we bring Buller in as that deep line forward. Also worth noting, to off the back of the first game of today's episode, we do have transfer deadline day and £7 million that we could still spend. So maybe if we do find a way to get this 4-4-2 to work, what we might end up doing is actually looking for a bit of an upgrade there on Moritz Buller if this formation does actually work. But definitely a big test for us here first up in today's episode, off the back of a bit of an easier one in the Conference League where we picked up a good 3-1 win. This definitely a lot tougher, as I said before. Didn't do too bad with this when we took on Eintracht Frankfurt, but Bayern at home, this is a completely different kettle of fish. Hopefully we can actually do decently here, and this formation might have a little bit of a future. Also, I do have that 4-4-2 narrow one saved just in case we need to bust out, but it looks like that narrow diamond is not needed as often as the wider formations, which does make sense here, seeing as how good our wing players are here at Jahn Regensburg. But one injury off the back of yesterday's episode, Dama Kamara is out for a little while with an injury, so he's not going to feature. But to be fair, with this 4-4-2, that's not too much of an issue. Also heading in there at left back because Dawn is on a heavy workload. But apart from that, this is our first choice 11, especially with that 4-4-2 Buller in there instead of Lucchini, which is certainly a decision. But with the formation one, that is kind of needed in Bayern. We did beat them in the league last year at home, but as I said, that was largely due to a late red card. We'll see if we get the job done here with a formation that's still a little bit of a work in progress. But according to our analyst, it's supposed to do a good job, and so far he hasn't really been wrong this season with drop points when we probably shouldn't have. Wolfsburg yesterday in particular. Eintracht Frankfurt, honestly, that wasn't too bad. And when we took on CSKA Sofia in the Conference League with this formation, didn't actually work out too badly compared to the 4-2-3-1. Had a chance there on the counter-attack. Some good tackling going in here from our players, but unfortunately just can't quite keep hold of the ball. They slot through even Ferguson, but thankfully he puts that one just wide. Defensively, I don't mind what we're doing there, just a bit unlucky that we didn't keep hold of the ball. Thankfully, no FM dodginess there, and they don't score a goal. But Bayern early here are all over us, to be fair. Quite similar to what I saw in the Eintracht Frankfurt game I played off camera. Would be quite nice to find a way here to get this going a little bit better attacking wise. It looks like defensively it's not too bad. A couple of yellow cards here late on in the first half, which is a bit concerning, as is a late highlight. But thankfully we do have the ball played in there, Cuervo, who surely will look out left. Yes, he does, hitting on a yellow card. Now Fernandes starts to try and make his way forward, definitely not in a position that suits him, and unfortunately a bit loose on the ball there, and we do go away to Bayern somehow here. Gekpo and a ton of space down the left-hand side to Bayern here, looking for a goal to go in front just before we head in to the sheds. Ferguson now plays it back there to Magozzi. Upamecano starts to cut in field and picks out Gekpo again here. Somehow we've left them in a fair bit of space. Good tackle there from Lopez, but again, we don't keep the ball. It goes back to Upamecano, who makes his way inside the box, squares that one. It's a good save there on the Evan Ferguson attempt, but Gekpo will put that one away. Did he stay onside though? Not too sure if the assistant referee there has put their flag up. Let's just wait for VAR, and thankfully the Liverpool man in real life did straight offside, so we hold on here to a 0-0 scoreline just before halftime. Indeed, he's just a step offside, so thankfully we hold on there and keep it at 0-0 at halftime. So defensively, we're not looking too bad here with this 4-4-2. A little bit unlucky in the fact that we're not winning the ball with all the tackles that we are putting in. A couple of changes at halftime here. The players on yellow cards will come off. So away Dawn, heavy workload, but he'll be there at left back. And also Toff will bring him on there for Rene Muller. And as well as that, let's just try Lucchini for Harsman, who is going a little bit fairly there at halftime. And also maybe we'll switch to low crosses, because I'm pretty sure that's an instruction we had turned on with our 4-4-2 narrow, and it did work quite well attacking wise. So we might try that here in the second half to leave on mixed crosses, just because that's what I usually have in the 4-3-3 and the 4-2-3-1. But to be fair, our strikers aren't that tall. It's usually our wingers who do score the headed goals here at Jahn Regensburg. Off back of that change first highlight here of the second half, we do have a free kick, unfortunately, to give the ball away, and Bayern here will get a chance to make their way out from the back. But so far, actually, with these two strikers putting some good pressure on them, that's a shocking pass out there from their goalkeeper. Big chance for us here. Levente Toff gets in behind. Diaz is out of the box, unfortunately, though, can't make the most of it. It's a big chance there. We don't really take a shot, but now we play through there. Fabian Fernandez, lovely ball there through Lucchini, who comes off the bench, and we take a 1-0 lead early in the second half. Not too sure we can claim the low crosses has too much to do with that, but certainly that's what we want here with this 4-2-4. We're not getting many chances with it, but we've got a decent one there, and we've taken it in this game. Big one when we took on Eintracht Frankfurt, which unfortunately we hit the post from and couldn't pinch all 3 points. But Lucchini here with a wonderfully timed through ball. To be fair, he's a lot more onside than those lines make him look. But thankfully, Fernandez there can put that one away and give us a 1-0 lead. Let's see if this time we can hold on and fingers crossed not bowl it like we did in the Cup semi last year. And unfortunately, poor work there from one of our centre-backs, Ferguson. Does get in behind, but thankfully tries to put that one top right corner. Owusu Adolo, in some quite good form early this season, can make a pretty simple save. So we hold on there to our 1-0 lead so far. It's fair to say we kind of FMing Bayern, but that's been a theme so far stats-wise against both these guys and Eintracht Frankfurt with this 4-4-2, just not quite attacking as our other formations, but somehow we are doing quite decently on attack. But unfortunately, Steven Van Gool, a new signing from Feyenoord, has put that one away with a big old deflection. We'll just see if it was an offside player or it was an own goal type deflection. Indeed it was one of our players, and they grab an equaliser. So not in front for too long here in this game. It's definitely come off one of our players, the goal scorer there in Fernandez, and they make it 1-1. But to be fair, stats-wise, they do probably deserve that. Just checking here some of our player ratings. Not looking too bad at the moment here, so don't think we'll change too much. Nurlazar, who can cover right wing, not as natural further back as Lewis Walden, but now he drops down to a red heart. So we'll make that sub. You'll see it here. It's a couple of greyed out stars. That's definitely something that we need to consider with this 4-4-2. One of the reasons I'm usually quite hesitant to try this formation, but our analyst is recommending it a heck of a lot early this season, and it has done a decent job, especially in that last Conference League game that we did play. But with only 15 minutes left, we're doing a decent job here, keeping this at 1-1. Fingers crossed we hold on and get something out of this game. Unfortunately, still though, with a mid-block, so can't put pressure there on that deep ball and actually get on the attackers. Bayern did miss that header. They are still on it here and steadily make their way into our half. Gakpo tries to pass that, but good footing there from Jimenez, and a chance for us here to get on the counter-attack. But Gakpo makes up for it there with a good slide tackle from behind. So Bayern, they are back on the ball. Diaz here outside the box. Toff, though, will get on the ball. He takes on a shot. He tries to drill that one top right corner, I think, but really, that was probably a time for a chip. A massive chance there for Levente Toff. He can't take it. To be fair, so far this season, our strikers aren't looking that good either, so that's a bit concerning, especially when we're not creating too many chances with a formation like this one. When we are, they're quite good chances, but we're just not taking them, and that could be costing us a couple of points. With our last sub here, we'll bring on Rawlins at right back, and also we might chuck here Buller onto attack, because I'm pretty sure that's something that we were doing with that diamond. Had just left it on support here for this 4-4-2 usual. Maybe that might help us here a bit more in attack, but unfortunately about to make our way into 3 minutes of added time. Bayern with a corner. Lopez there with a good tackle, but at least somehow finds himself there and a ton of space down the left-hand side. It's a Cuervo own goal, 2 deflections, but 2 goals for Bayern Munich here, and they might rob us of some points yet again. FM, they just love giving Bayern some easy goals. To be fair, stats-wise, hard to argue they don't deserve the win from this game, but both goals have been pretty cheesy, and off the back of the DFB Pokal semi last season, don't really like that. So late on here, we'll go a bit more attacking while sticking with this 4-4-2. We'll chuck the players on support out wide onto attack, and also we'll go fully high tempo and also turn off being more disciplined, as well as go into an attacking mindset and maybe push up to a much higher defensive line and a high press as well, and get our defenders to step up more. Let's try and get in their face here late on in this game. But unfortunately, despite those stats, actually feel like we probably deserve something from this game. But Bayern off the back of 2 goals that they've got through deflections off our players have come from behind yet again and picked up a 2-1 win at the Jahn Regensburg. Overall scheme of things, losing to Bayern by only 1 goal isn't too bad, but boy, it's frustrating off the back of having that 1-0 lead. So yeah, a bit annoying that Bayern keeps screwing us here out of points at the Jahn Regensburg, the cup semi last season, and then that game last year it was Lingbar in that cup semi. He's no longer here. I think his start to life at Real Betis as well has not been too good either, which is not ideal. Might have brought there a little bit of a dub that game. 2 big deflections for the goals that they score, and we suffer a 2-1 defeat, and it does mean that we've only got 2 points from our first 3 games and stay down in 12th. Fingers crossed I can improve that when I take on Wolfsburg off camera before we come back to take on Bayern Leverkusen. And we are back about to take on Bayern Leverkusen second up here in today's episode, but here's the recap of that Wolfsburg game, and thankfully a much needed first win of the season here at Jahn Regensburg. The reason I'm not showing you the highlights, there were all sorts of goals going on in this game. We picked up a 5-2 win. It was a very entertaining game. Went down early there thanks to a Patrick Vimmer goal, but then Fernandes grabbed us an equaliser and Levente Toff made it 2-1 about halfway through the first half. Unfortunately then, Kirchulis from a header made it 2-2, but Haasman the other side of half-time scored goals, and Lucchini picked one up as well in the second half. Fabian Fernandes actually missed a penalty just before that Lucchini goal, so thankfully that wasn't too costly. And our defence in the second half a lot better than it was in the first, off the back of a bit of a telling off I gave our defenders there at halftime, and we picked up a 5-2 win stats-wise. It was a game that was pretty even, but our shots on target with the 4-3-3 for this game were quite good. So I think so far the 4-3-3 might be our best tactic this season off the back of that display that we did just put out, especially as that result could have been better if Fernandes did put that penalty away. But a 3.19 XG versus 1.4 obviously bumped up a little bit there by the penalty, even though it was missed, but that is a very impressive result, which does see us actually move inside of a European qualifying spot. But in saying that, we're a fair way off Borussia Dortmund, 7 points behind those guys. It's a fair old log jam towards the middle and bottom of the Bundesliga table at this early stage of the season, but thankfully we do pick up some points there. Otherwise, we'll be down there near the relegation zone. So a very important win for us there away from home, and hopefully can back it up here with a decent performance against Bayer Leverkusen, who indeed do sit in that relegation promotion game. So they've had a shocking start to the season considering they're supposed to be the 3rd best team in the league this year. They did just beat Salzburg in their Champions League opener off the back of losses to Borussia Dortmund, Gladbach, and draws of Hoffenheim and Freiburg. So their Bundesliga start a little bit tough, but certainly they're probably going to be a better team than that come the end of this season. Hopefully might be catching them here at a good time in between some Champions League games, because 3 days off the back of this one, they've got Bayern away in the Champions League, which is certainly a tough draw against the fellow German team in a continental competition. So yeah, these guys might be in trouble early this season. Maybe Niko Kovac won't be there for too long, which would make things interesting off the back of that job interview offer we did have, where they chose him over us there about halfway through last season. But hopefully here can pick up a win at home. And for this game, we are going according to our analyst with the 4-2-3-1. This was the formation we used against these guys last season. Picked up, I believe it was a 4-1 win at home before a 4-0 loss in the second half of the season off the back of Kovac getting appointed. So definitely some mixed results against these guys last season, but fingers crossed here at home we can pick up a win for the first time at the Jahn Regensburg this season. A little bit of a switch from last season so far, looking a little bit better away from home than we are in front of our home fans. Just one change to our usual best 11 here for this game. Levente Toff comes in for Rene Muller. He's not been too good to start the season. A 6.46 average rating. Toff not doing too badly, even though he blew a pretty decent chance there in that previous game against Bayern Munich. So fingers crossed he can finally pick up a decent result in front of our home fans against the team who are struggling so far this season, albeit have had some tough games, but still they'll be disappointed with those results outside probably of that Dortmund one. So fingers crossed here can hurt them while they're down near the bottom of that Bundesliga table, especially going back to the formation I think is the most comfortable for us with the signings that we make here with the Jahn Regensburg team. The 4-2-3-1, where players like Lucchini can go a bit further forward, as can our wingers, and just the one striker Buller is a decent deep lying forward, but honestly probably wouldn't make the team if we weren't using a 2-striker system. So we'll see here if this 4-2-3-1 can do a decent job here against Bayern Leverkusen, like it did in the corresponding fixture last season. As I mentioned, I'm pretty sure from memory it was a rather clinical 4-1-1, so fingers crossed here can pick up something similar in a first win at home this season in the Bundesliga. Unfortunately though, an early highlight, and Bayern Leverkusen, they are on the ball. Hincapi plays it in there. Savio, who dribbles inside, somehow is given a ton of space. It's actually Savinho. Somehow the H there is missing from his name above his head. But our defence early in games is very similar to the goal that I conceded when I took on Wolfsburg off camera. It's pretty poor early for some reason here with this Jahn Regensburg team, both with the 4-3-3 and the 4-2-3-1. The 4-4-2, pretty solid defensively, but these other formations, we're quite leaky early, and we concede a pretty soft goal there. So unfortunately, we go 1-0 down to a team who currently do sit in the relegation zone. And obviously, it's a pretty tight table. A loss here at home would be quite bad, even to a decent team like Bayer Leverkusen. But to be fair, off the back of that goal we did concede, we've been quite good stats-wise, just no highlights yet that we're seeing, which is a little bit concerning. But apart from the fact that we did concede that only shot they've had, it's looking okay. But now I say that, another highlight, and again it's Bayer Leverkusen here, who are on the attack with only their second shot, it looks like, of the game. And thankfully that one does just curve wide, but both their highlights so far have been all they've done in this game. We've done a fair bit, we're just not seeing it in the match engine. So a little bit here of a funny game so far, second up in today's episode. Unfortunately, not backing up our goal scoring that we were showing with the 4-3-3 at Wolfsburg, and we're 1-0 down at halftime. And to be fair, a few players out there not doing too well. Lucchini on a 6.3. To be fair, I don't know if quite yet we want to bring on someone like Togo Lamb for him, but we'll take off Fernandez on a 6.4 for Tuberquia, and Pavasic can come on for Ruslan, who's on that yellow card at right centre back. So a couple of subs there at halftime, just taking off the players who are a little bit of a red card risk, and also Tuberquia can come on for Fernandez, not doing too well today, a bit surprising, back in a role that should suit him a bit further forward than with our 4-4-2. Lucchini, big eye on him here in the second half, one of our better players here at the club these days, but is sitting on a 6.3. Unfortunately, Cuervo, a yellow card there, does kind of leave us a bit screwed there at centre back. Not too much we can do there if we get in card trouble in this game, but thankfully a highlight here which might finally be in our favour, just shy of the hour mark. Cuervo for the Harsman, and now Dawn makes his way into the inner box, one of those low crosses that we've turned off the back of that first game of today's episode, but a good block there from the goalkeeper for Bayer Leverkusen. Off the back of that, we'll take off Jimenez on a 6.4 for Rawlins, and we will bring on here Rene Muller for Toff, struggling on a 6.3, and Tygo Land for Lucchini, who's not doing too well. So there'll be all our subs used here, just shy of the hour mark stats-wise. We definitely should be in front of this game, but somehow we're 1-0 down. Our defence here is looking quite soft this season at Jahn Regensburg, just like it was late last season, so that is a bit of a concern. But a free kick here, and lots of options in space on the right, so fingers crossed here we take this one short. But Tuberquia goes looking for the top left corner, a good save from the Bayer Leverkusen goalkeeper. So unfortunately it's still 1-0 to Leverkusen, just not too sure how with all these chances that we're getting, but not seeing as many of them as I'd like here in the match engine. That pass is not too hot, we're all over them stats wise, but we're 1-0 down. This game feels like a little bit of an FMing, which is probably fair off the back of what we did to Eintracht Frankfurt off camera since yesterday's episode, and probably makes up as well for how close that Bayern Munich game was. But still, it's a little bit frustrating because we're actually looking quite decent here stats-wise, and we're 1-0 down. We'll go up tempo for the last 10 minutes of this game, and fingers crossed here we get a chance. They're going to try and make their way here out from the back, but it's a highlight, and we need these in the situation that we are in, as now Bayer Leverkusen try and make their way there down our right-hand side. But thankfully, a good foot in there from Rawlins does mean that we do get back on the ball. He's on it again here, plays it forward to Lewis Walden, who does start to cut inside. Good dribbling from him, and a nice pass out there to Uwe Dorn in space. Down our left-hand side to Berkouillet with a bit there of a scuff shot, and that's the highlight. Our shots in this game are not too good, at least the ones that we're seeing. Somehow 1.81 XG, and we're 1-0 down. Definitely getting FMT second up in today's episode, but thankfully just about to make our way into 4 minutes of added time, and Rene Miller off the back of that ball from Lewis Walden will score a much-deserved goal, and we make it 1-1. So thankfully, we finally score here with this 4-2-3-1. Stats-wise, working really well, but we were behind for so long in that game. Fingers crossed can find a way here like Bayern did to score late and pick up all 3 points from this game. But unfortunately, that's not going to happen because the game doesn't rate us like they do Bayern Munich. It's a 1-1 draw stats-wise. Absolutely no way we should be dropping points in that game. But that early goal scored by Savinho, it does prove costly. Thankfully, a late one there to Rene Miller does mean we pick up a point from that game. But so far at home this season, we're just looking a little bit shaky, which is concerning because early last season we picked up some really good points at home in our first season up in the Bundesliga. This time around, we are struggling quite a bit, so a bit concerned about that, as well as the fact that now with both the 4-3-3 and this 4-2-3-1, we are conceding quite early and don't always have the firepower to come from behind. We did it away at Wolfsburg. That was a pretty open game, thankfully. Got the 5 goals in there, probably should have saved some up for that Leverkusen game. That time took us until very deep for Rene Miller to pull a goal back. We definitely deserved it, but probably a game there that we should have won based on stats. Thankfully, we come from behind though and pick up a 1-1 draw, which for now somehow sees us still inside of a European qualifying spot. So unfortunately, we get FM there second up in today's episode. Dominant stats-wise, but took a 90th minute goal there to Rene Miller to take a point off Bayern Leverkusen. Our home form so far this season outside of that Conference League win over CSKA Sofia has been pretty poor. A loss to Bayern, and we've dropped points to Augsburg and to Bayern Leverkusen. So honestly, that's not too impressive. Those are 2 decent teams. But yeah, a bit disappointed with our start to the Bundesliga season, albeit we are somehow still inside of a European qualifying spot, depending on what Gladbach do when they take on Dortmund in that game, which has been delayed for some reason. Must be because those 2 teams are in the Champions League. But somehow, with only 1 win from our first 5 games, we're in a European spot. Fingers crossed we can actually keep ourselves there when we come back for tomorrow's episode. We'll go our first Conference League phase game. That should be a win, even though it's away from home. And also Hoffenheim, I think they're a little bit of a worse team than most we've taken on in that first month or so of the season. So hopefully we'll come back tomorrow with a couple of green dots, and then we'll take on Borussia Dortmund, easily the best team in Germany over the past year or so. That one at home, we'll see if we can somehow take some points off those guys. And also, we'll probably come back for Gladbach away from home. 2 decent teams there we'll take on in October off the back of an international break. But if you enjoyed that episode, then do remember to go down below, leave a thumbs up on the video, and if you haven't done so already and are enjoying the series here on the channel, also make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn that notification bell on as well. Until tomorrow for that Dortmund and Gladbach double, thank you very much for watching. Keep on keeping on, and I'll see you then. Cheers.